The warning came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, Earth's long-range sensors detected something unusual. Multiple objects moving against the normal flow of space traffic. At first, the scientists at Global Space Command thought it was just another group of asteroids, but these objects were different. They moved with purpose. Admiral James Thompson stood at the main viewing window of Earth Defense Station 1, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. At 60 years old, he had spent most of his life preparing Earth for this moment, though many had called him paranoid for it. Now, as he watched the main screen display the approaching vessels, he felt no satisfaction in being right. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Rogers from his monitoring station, "the objects have crossed Neptune's orbit. Their speed is impossible by our standards." Thompson nodded slowly. "Show me the numbers." The screen filled with data, and Thompson's eyes widened. These vessels were moving at speeds that should have torn them apart. Their energy signatures were off the charts, suggesting technology far beyond anything Earth had achieved. "Send the first contact package," Thompson ordered, following the protocols they had practiced countless times. The package contained basic mathematical sequences, visual representations of human peaceful intentions, and simple language primers, everything their scientists thought would be needed for first contact. The response came faster than anyone expected. The alien ships slowed dramatically as they approached Mars' orbit, and a transmission reached Earth's communication arrays. The message was clear, precise, and in perfect English. To the primitive species of Sol 3, designated Earth in local parlance, "We are representatives of the Grand Galactic Empire. Your world has been monitored and is now ready for incorporation into our domain. Prepare for peaceful integration." The control room fell silent. Thompson's jaw tightened. The message continued, explaining how the Empire had uplifted 47 other species, bringing them into their enlightened civilization. Every word dripped with condescension. "Sir," Rogers spoke up again, "they're requesting immediate communication with Earth's leadership." Thompson straightened his uniform. "Put them through to my ready room. And get me the Secretary General." The alien that appeared on the screen looked almost human, save for the slight purple tint to their skin and the too perfect symmetry of their features. He introduced himself as Imperial Overseer Smith, a name clearly chosen to be pronounceable by humans. "Admiral Thompson," the Overseer spoke with a slight smile, "your species has shown remarkable progress for primitives. We've been watching since you split the atom. Quite impressive for your development stage." Thompson kept his face neutral, even as anger burned in his chest. "We appreciate your interest in Earth, Overseer. However, we are a sovereign world." The Overseer's smile widened. "Of course you are. For now. But surely you understand that your technological level is barely above planetary. Your fastest ships would take years to reach your nearest neighbor. We offer you the stars." "At what cost?" Thompson asked. "Merely acceptance of Imperial guidance. Your militaries will be disbanded. You won't need them. Your governments will answer to Imperial coordinators. Your resources will be managed for the greater good of the Empire. A small price for advancement, wouldn't you agree?" Thompson looked at the data streaming across his secondary screen. Readings from the alien ships. Their technology was incredible, yes, but something about it seemed vulnerable. Too dependent on advanced systems. Too reliant on complexity. "We'll need time to consider your offer," Thompson said carefully. "Of course, you have 30 of your days to accept our peaceful incorporation." After that, the Overseer left the threat unspoken. "We look forward to welcoming Earth into the Empire." As the communication ended, Thompson turned to his staff. "Get me every military leader on the planet. Now." He looked back at the screen showing the Imperial ships, their sleek forms gleaming in the sunlight reflected off Mars. "And someone wake up the boys in research and development. I want to know every weakness in their fancy technology." The next 30 days would determine Earth's fate, but Thompson had already made his decision. Earth would not bow to an empire that saw them as primitives to be conquered. If these aliens wanted Earth, they would learn why humans had survived every challenge their world had thrown at them. Sometimes, being primitive had its advantages. The United Earth Council chamber had never been so crowded. Leaders from every nation sat shoulder to shoulder in the circular room, their faces lit by the holographic display showing the Imperial ships hovering near Mars. Admiral Thompson stood at the center, his voice steady as he delivered the news that would change human history forever. "The Empire has given us 30 days to surrender," he said, looking around the room. "Their message is clear: join them or face the consequences." The Russian president leaned forward. "And what exactly are these consequences, Admiral?" Thompson pressed a button, and the hologram changed to show footage from the Empire's database. Footage they hadn't meant to share, but Earth's best hackers had found anyway. The images showed worlds being peacefully incorporated into the Empire. Cities covered in strange energy fields. Armies turned to dust. Entire populations relocated to work camps. "Good God," whispered the British Prime Minister. "They'd done this 47 times before," Thompson continued. "Each civilization they encountered either surrendered or was destroyed." But he paused, allowing himself a small smile. "They've never met humans before." The Chinese president stood up. "You have found something. A weakness." Thompson nodded and motioned to Dr. Robert Miller, Earth's leading physicist, who stepped forward with a tablet in his hands. "The Empire's technology is advanced," Miller began, "but it's also incredibly dependent on complex systems. Their ships use quantum fields for everything, from communications to weapons to life support. They'd forgotten the basics." "Forgotten the basics?" asked the Indian Prime Minister. "What do you mean?" Miller displayed a new image, a simple diagram of an Imperial ship. "They don't use physical armor anymore. They rely entirely on energy shields. They don't use regular radio waves. Everything is quantum-based. They don't even use simple projectile weapons because they consider them primitive." "And this helps us how?" someone called from the back. Thompson took over again. "Because sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, not physical objects. Their sensors look for advanced power signatures, not basic radar. And their ships," he grinned, "their ships can't handle good old-fashioned kinetic impacts." The room burst into discussion. Thompson waited for the noise to settle before continuing. "We have a plan, but it will require every nation to work together. We need to build defenses they won't expect. Weapons so primitive their advanced sensors won't even register them as threats." The American president stood. "You're talking about going to war with an empire that controls half the galaxy, Admiral. With primitive weapons." "Yes, Mr. President, because that's exactly what they won't expect." Thompson brought up a new display. Designs for modified nuclear submarines, rail guns, and orbital defense platforms. "They think we're helpless primitives who will bow down in awe of their technology. Let's show them how dangerous primitives can be." The next few hours were filled with intense discussion. The Japanese defense minister suggested converting their bullet trains into mass drivers. The Brazilian president offered their rainforest as a hiding place for ground-based weapons. The African Union proposed using their desert solar farms to power massive electromagnetic pulse generators. As the meeting drew to a close, the Secretary General called for a vote. All in favor of rejecting the Empire's ultimatum and implementing Admiral Thompson's defense plan. Hands rose across the chamber. The vote was unanimous. "Very well," the Secretary General said. "Let it be recorded that on this day, Earth chooses to fight. Admiral Thompson, you have 25 days to prepare our defenses." As the leaders filed out, Miller approached Thompson. "You know what this means, right? If we fail." "We won't fail," Thompson said firmly, "because we have something they've forgotten about over their centuries of easy victories." "What's that?" Thompson looked out the window at the city below, where people were going about their lives, unaware of the choice their leaders had just made. "The human spirit, Doctor. We've spent our entire history fighting against impossible odds. It's what we do best. He turned back to the room, now empty except for his core team. Get me all our submarine commanders, and I want every weapons engineer from every country on video conference in an hour. It's time to show the Empire why picking a fight with primitives isn't always a smart idea. The clock was ticking. 25 days to prepare for a war unlike any humanity had ever faced. But for the first time since the Imperial ships appeared, Thompson felt hopeful. Sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the nuclear submarine U.S. Defiance glided silently through the dark waters. Captain Thomas Walker stood in the control room, watching as his crew installed the new weapon systems. What had once been nuclear missile tubes were being converted into something the Empire would never expect. Loading test projectile, his weapons officer reported. Simple metal rod, no explosives, no electronics. Walker nodded. Just like throwing a rock, he said with a smile. The oldest weapon in human history. Above the Earth's surface, changes were happening at an incredible pace. 20 days remained until the Empire's deadline, and humanity was working faster than ever before in history. At the North American Defense Command, Admiral Thompson watched multiple screens showing progress around the world. In the Sahara Desert, massive rail guns were being buried under the sand. In the Amazon rainforest, simple but powerful radar stations were hidden beneath the canopy. Along coastlines worldwide, old-fashioned ballistic missile sites were being transformed into kinetic weapon launchers. "Sir," Lieutenant Rogers called out, "the Empire's scouts are watching us." Thompson walked to the main screen. Sure enough, small Imperial vessels hung in high orbit, their sensors no doubt recording everything they could see. But they were missing the most important parts of Earth's preparation. "Let them watch," Thompson said. "They're looking for energy signatures, power readings, radiation. They won't understand what we're really doing." In orbit, construction teams worked on what appeared to be standard communications satellites. But inside each one was a simple surprise: bags of metal balls, ready to be released into carefully planned orbits. No electronics, no engines, just basic physics turned into a weapon. Dr. Miller walked into the command center, looking tired but excited. "The test results are in," he said, handing Thompson a tablet. "We launched a simple steel ball at half the speed of our new railguns. It went straight through their shield technology." "How is that possible?" Thompson asked, studying the data. "Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, lasers, plasma, particle beams. But they've forgotten about simple momentum. A rock thrown hard enough will still break a window, no matter how advanced the window is." In Russia's Ural Mountains, engineers were reviving old Cold War technology. Simple radio transmitters, powerful enough to disrupt the Empire's quantum communications. In Australia's outback, Aboriginal guides helped hide massive electromagnet arrays underneath the red soil. The Imperial Overseer's face appeared on the main screen, right on schedule for his daily check-in. "Admiral Thompson," he said with his usual condescending smile, "I notice your species is busy with something. I hope you're preparing your acceptance speech." "We're preparing something," Thompson replied calmly. 15 days left until your deadline, correct?" "Indeed, though you could save us all some time and submit now. Your primitive attempts at defense are quite visible to our sensors, and I assure you they're useless." Thompson kept his face neutral. "We'll take the full time. Thank you." After the transmission ended, General Maria Torres entered the command center. "The ground forces are ready," she reported. "Every soldier has been trained in basic warfare. No complex electronics, no advanced communications, just like their great-grandfathers fought." "The Empire won't expect that," Thompson said. "They'll be looking for energy weapons and force fields. Instead, they'll find people with simple guns and radio sets." In the final days before the deadline, Earth continued its preparations. The Empire's scouts reported what they saw: a primitive species scrambling to mount what looked like a hopeless defense. Their reports mentioned the unusual lack of advanced technology, suggesting that Earth had given up on trying to match the Empire's level. How wrong they were. On the last night before the deadline, Thompson stood in the Global Command Center. Around him, screens showed Earth's new defense network. To advanced sensors, it looked primitive, almost Stone Age. But Thompson knew better. "Status report," he called out. "Submarine fleet in position." Walker reported from the Pacific. "Ground forces ready." Torres confirmed from her bunker. "Orbital defense grid complete," came the report from space. Thompson looked at the image of the Imperial ships still hanging near Mars. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Sometimes, he thought, the deadliest predator was the one you underestimated. "All stations," he said into the Global Command Channel, "prepare for Operation Stone Age. Let's show the Empire why they should have paid more attention in history class." The Empire's deadline expired at dawn. As the sun rose over the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Thompson watched the Imperial fleet begin its advance from Mars. 50 massive ships, each one larger than Earth's biggest aircraft carrier, moved with perfect formation toward the planet. "They're taking their time," Lieutenant Rogers said, checking his old-fashioned radar screen. "Moving slower than they can." "Of course they are," Thompson replied. "They want us to see them coming. They want us to be afraid." The Imperial Overseer's face appeared on every television and computer screen on Earth. His perfect features wore an expression of fake sympathy. "People of Earth, your time to choose has ended. We come now to bring you into the Empire's embrace. Please do not resist. Your primitive defenses cannot harm us. Accept your place, and no one needs to die today." Thompson pressed a button on his command console. "All stations, maintain radio silence. Remember your training. No advanced electronics unless absolutely necessary." Deep beneath the Pacific, Captain Walker and his submarine crew waited in total silence. Their nuclear reactor was powered down. They ran on batteries, just like submarines from 100 years ago. "Target distance," Walker whispered to his weapons officer. "Closest ship will pass overhead in 5 minutes," came the quiet reply. "They're not even trying to look for us." The Imperial ships entered Earth's atmosphere, their energy shields glowing bright against the morning sky. They looked unstoppable, invincible in their advanced technology. That's when Thompson gave the first order. "Operation Stone Age, Phase 1. Execute." Around the world, hidden rail guns powered up. In orbit, satellites began releasing their cargo of simple metal balls. From the ocean depths, submarines prepared their new weapons. The Imperial ships never saw it coming. The first sign that something was wrong came when small pieces of metal began hitting their shields. The Empire's sensors didn't even register them as weapons. They were too simple, too basic to trigger any warnings. But physics didn't care about advanced technology. When a metal ball moving at extreme speed hits something, it carries a lot of force. Thousands of these impacts began overwhelming the Imperial shields. "What is this?" The Overseer's voice crackled across the airways. "Some kind of space debris." Thompson allowed himself a small smile. Phase 2. That's when the submarines attacked. From their hidden positions in the deep ocean, they launched their weapons, simple metal rods, accelerated to incredible speeds by electromagnetic forces. No explosives, no guidance systems, just basic kinetic energy. The first rod hit an Imperial ship's shield. The shield, designed to stop energy weapons, couldn't handle the simple physical impact. The rod punched straight through, tearing a hole in the ship's hull. "Impossible," the Overseer shouted. "These are primitive weapons." "Phase 3, Thompson commanded. Around the world, the hidden rail guns opened fire. Each one launched simple projectiles at speeds that would have made Earth's earliest gunmakers proud. The Imperial ships, their shields already weakened by the orbital debris and submarine attacks, began falling from the sky. "This is not acceptable." The Overseer's voice had lost its condescending tone. "You cannot defeat us with such primitive methods. Actually, Thompson replied, opening a channel for the first time. We just did. Look around you. The mighty Imperial fleet was in chaos. Ships tried to climb back to space, but the cloud of orbiting metal debris made it impossible. Others attempted to fire their advanced energy weapons, only to find their targeting systems disrupted by simple radio waves. Final phase, Thompson ordered. Ground forces emerged from hiding, using basic projectile weapons that the Imperial armor had no defense against. Their simple radio communications couldn't be hacked or jammed by the Empire's quantum systems. Within an hour, half the Imperial fleet was either destroyed or grounded. The rest retreated to high orbit, where they faced the choice of either leaving or trying to break through the deadly cloud of spinning metal that now surrounded Earth. The Overseer's final transmission was short. This is not over. Primitives. No, Thompson agreed, watching the Imperial ships retreat toward Mars. But it's a good start. In the command center, cheers broke out. Humanity had won its first battle against the Empire, not with advanced technology, but with the simple principles of physics and the element of surprise. Send word to all stations, Thompson ordered. The enemy will be back, and next time they won't underestimate us. But today, Earth has shown the galaxy that being primitive doesn't mean being helpless. As the sun set that evening, the remaining Imperial ships vanished into deep space, leaving behind a very important lesson. Never underestimate a species just because they do things the old-fashioned way. News traveled fast across the galaxy, even by Imperial standards. On 100 worlds, aliens gathered around communication devices to hear the impossible. A primitive planet had defeated an Imperial battle fleet. In the Imperial Palace on the capital world, the Grand Emperor watched the replay of the battle for the 10th time. His face darkened as he saw his mighty ships falling to simple metal projectiles and basic physics. Impossible, he muttered, his perfect features twisted in anger. Defeated by rocks and sticks. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Thompson stood in a room full of captured Imperial technology. Dr. Miller was examining a damaged shield generator, shaking his head in amazement. It's brilliant technology, Miller said, but so specialized. They designed it to stop energy weapons, never thinking anyone would just throw rocks at them anymore. Like bringing a supercomputer to a fistfight, Thompson replied with a smile. The smile faded as new reports came in. Lieutenant Rogers rushed into the room, holding a tablet. Sir, we're picking up transmissions from across the Empire. Other worlds are watching us. Some of them are starting to resist. Thompson turned to the main screen. Reports were flooding in from distant stars. On a farming world called Haven, the people had downed an Imperial patrol ship with harvesting equipment. On the mining planet Depth, workers had used simple explosives to drive away their Imperial overseers. They're learning from us, Miller said quietly. We showed them that advanced technology isn't everything. The Imperial response came 3 days after the battle. The overseer's face appeared on Earth's screens again, but this time he wasn't smiling. Your primitive victory was a fluke, he announced. The Empire has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. We will not be humbled by savages who think throwing rocks is warfare. Thompson stood in the command center, surrounded by his staff. And yet, he replied calmly, those rocks brought down your ships. The Emperor himself has ordered your subjugation, the Overseer continued. The entire Imperial fleet moves against you now. Hundreds of ships, thousands of warriors. You cannot hope to. Thompson cut the transmission. Let him talk to empty air. Lieutenant, what's the status of our new defenses? Rogers checked his simple paper charts. They had learned not to rely too heavily on computers. Orbital ring is fully operational. We've added 3 layers of kinetic barriers. The submarines have resupplied, and ground forces report all positions strengthened. In orbit, satellites continued dropping simple metal balls into precise positions, creating a deadly cloud around Earth. On the ground, railgun crews practiced reloading their weapons. In the oceans, submarines moved silently through the depths, carrying their cargo of simple but lethal projectiles. But the most interesting reports came from deep space. The Imperial propaganda network was failing to contain the story. Across the galaxy, subjected species were learning that the mighty Empire could be defeated with simple weapons and clever thinking. "Sir," Rogers called out, intercepted transmission from the Imperial capital. They're denying our victory, claiming it never happened." Thompson laughed. "Of course they are. Their whole empire is built on the idea that advanced technology makes them invincible. We just proved it doesn't." In the following days, more reports arrived. 3 imperial worlds had declared independence. A dozen more were in open revolt. The Empire's perfectly ordered galaxy was falling into chaos, all because one primitive planet had dared to fight back. Dr. Miller approached Thompson with new analysis. "They'll have to adapt their shields," he said. "Find a way to stop physical projectiles. But that will make them weaker against energy weapons. And by then," Thompson added, "we'll have something new ready for them. Humanity's greatest strength is in our technology. It's our ability to adapt." The command center buzzed with activity as reports continued arriving. The Empire was mobilizing its full fleet, gathering ships from across the galaxy. They would return, and next time they would be ready for simple projectiles and basic physics. But Earth would be ready too. Already, engineers were designing new weapons, looking for more ways to use simple solutions against complex problems. The Empire had forgotten the basics of warfare in their rush for advanced technology. Earth would remind them, one primitive weapon at a time. Thompson looked at the star map, showing the Empire's fleet movements. "Send a message to all Earth forces," he ordered. "The Empire is coming back, and this time they're taking us seriously." But that's exactly what we wanted. Because now the galaxy knew, being primitive didn't mean being powerless. Sometimes the simplest solution was the best one. And humanity had plenty more simple solutions to share. The Imperial fleet appeared like a swarm of metal stars, darkening the space between Mars and Earth. 500 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled in Imperial history, approached Earth with deadly purpose. Admiral Thompson stood at his command post, watching the fleet's approach on a simple radar screen. "Just like we expected," he said. "They've modified their shields to deal with physical impacts." Captain Walker's voice crackled over the radio from his submarine deep in the Pacific. "But they can't have tested them much. Not in the 3 weeks since their first defeat." "Exactly." Thompson turned to his staff. "All stations, prepare for Grand Defense Protocol. Let's show them humanity's stuck-in trick." The Imperial Overseer's transmission reached Earth, his voice now hard with anger. "Primitives of Earth, witness the true might of the Empire. Surrender now, or be destroyed." Thompson picked up his radio microphone. No fancy quantum communications, just old-fashioned radio waves. "This is Earth. We have a response for you." He nodded to Lieutenant Rogers. Across Earth's surface, thousands of simple radio transmitters powered up simultaneously, each one broadcasting on a different frequency, creating a wall of radio noise that cut through the Empire's quantum communication network like a knife. What is this?" The Overseer's image flickered and distorted. "Some kind of primitive jamming." "Phase 1, Thompson ordered. The orbital defense grid activated, but instead of metal balls, this time it released clouds of simple copper wire. The Imperial fleet's energy shields sparked and crackled as the conductive material created countless small short circuits. "Their new shields can stop solid impacts," Dr. Miller reported from his station. "But they can't handle conductive materials disrupting their energy fields." The Imperial ships pressed forward, but their perfect formation was breaking apart. Without their quantum communications, they had to rely on visual signals. Their advanced targeting systems, confused by the radio interference, struggled to lock onto Earth's defenses. "Phase 2, Thompson commanded. From hidden bases around the world, massive electromagnets powered up. Not advanced weapons, just simple magnetic fields on a huge scale. The Empire's ships, their hulls made of magnetic materials, began to shudder and shake. Impossible. The overseer's voice was barely audible through the interference. These are primitive magnetic fields. Sometimes the old ways work best, Thompson replied calmly. Phase 3. That's when Earth revealed its newest weapon. Hidden in the asteroid belt, old space mining ships began pushing rocks toward the Imperial fleet. Not firing them, just nudging them with simple rockets. The Empire's advanced sensors, designed to detect energy weapons and explosives, ignored the approaching asteroids as natural objects. The first asteroid struck an Imperial dreadnought. Its new shields, modified to resist high-speed projectiles, weren't designed to handle the slow, crushing force of a massive rock. The ship crumpled like paper. All submarines, execute Pattern Delta, Thompson ordered. Beneath the waves, Earth's submarine fleet launched their weapons. Not the metal rods from the first battle, but simple nets made of copper wire, spread wide by compressed air. The nets entangled the low-flying Imperial ships, disrupting their shield generators and shorting out their power systems. The mighty Imperial fleet found itself caught in a trap made of the simplest materials: metal, wire, rocks, and radio waves. Their advanced technology, optimized to fight equally advanced enemies, couldn't adapt to Earth's primitive but effective weapons. Final phase, Thompson commanded. Ground-based rail guns opened fire, not with solid projectiles this time, but with clouds of metal dust. The dust worked its way through the gaps in the Imperial shields, clogging engines and jamming weapon ports. Ships began falling from the sky, not destroyed but disabled by something as simple as metal powder. The battle lasted for 6 hours. When it ended, the Imperial fleet was in ruins. Some ships had been crushed by asteroids, others were entangled in nets, and many simply drifted, their systems shut down by dust and electrical interference. The Overseer's final transmission was barely comprehensible through the radio jamming. How do you keep defeating our advanced technology? Thompson's reply was simple. Because we remember what you forgot. Every piece of advanced technology is built on basic principles, and sometimes those basic principles are all you need. As the sun set over Earth that day, humanity had won its greatest victory, not through superior technology, but through the clever use of simple physics and basic materials. The Empire had learned a hard lesson. Underestimating primitive species was a mistake they would not make again, if they survived to make any more mistakes at all. The Grand Emperor himself appeared on Earth's communication screens 1 week after his fleet's devastating defeat. His perfect face showed cracks of rage, his usual composure shattered by consecutive failures. "This cannot stand," he declared. "No primitive world has ever." Admiral Thompson cut him off mid-sentence. "We are not primitive, Your Highness. We are human. And this is our formal response to the Empire." With a nod to Lieutenant Rogers, Thompson began broadcasting Earth's message, not just to the Empire, but to every world in the galaxy. They used the simplest communication method possible, basic radio waves that any civilization could receive. To all worlds under Imperial rule, Thompson's voice echoed across space. "Earth sends greetings. We have proven twice now that the Empire is not invincible. Their advanced technology can be defeated with basic physics and simple weapons. We offer our knowledge freely to any world that wishes to be free." The response was immediate. Across the galaxy, subjected worlds began rising up. They used Earth's techniques: simple projectiles, basic radio jamming, metal dust, and magnetic fields. The Empire's standardized defenses, designed to stop only the most advanced weapons, fell planet after planet. In the Earth Defense Command Center, Dr. Miller watched the reports flood in. 17 worlds in open rebellion, he reported. 30 more demanding independence. The Empire's control is crumbling. The Grand Emperor's next transmission was different. Gone was the rage, replaced by something new: fear. "What do you want?" he asked. "Name your price to keep your methods secret." Thompson stood before the global camera feed, every human on Earth watching. "Our price is simple. Earth and its solar system are now declared permanently independent. Any Imperial ship entering our space will be destroyed. Additionally, any world that requests our help in gaining their independence will receive it. You would destroy 10,000 years of peace and order. The Emperor demanded. Peace through force isn't peace, Thompson replied. Order through oppression isn't order. Humanity has learned this lesson through centuries of our own history. Now we're teaching it to the galaxy. In the following days, Earth began sharing its defense plans with other worlds. Simple blueprints for railguns, instructions for creating radio jamming networks, designs for basic but effective weapons. Nothing too advanced, just fundamental physics and engineering that any civilization could understand and use. The Empire's hold on the galaxy weakened day by day. Imperial ships, designed to fight advanced energy weapons, had no defense against 1,000 simple attacks from 100 different worlds. Their perfectly organized empire began breaking apart, unable to maintain control when every planet could now defend itself. 1 month after Earth's second victory, Thompson stood before the United Earth Council to deliver his famous primitive but proud speech. "We were called primitive," he said, his voice carried to every corner of Earth and beyond. "We were looked down upon because we still used physical weapons, because we hadn't abandoned the basic principles of warfare for advanced technology. But being primitive saved us. Understanding the fundamentals made us strong. And now we offer that strength to others." The Empire, faced with a galaxy-wide rebellion it couldn't control, finally sent its surrender terms to Earth. They would recognize Earth's independence. They would grant freedom to any world that demanded it. The age of imperial rule was over. In the aftermath, Earth established itself as a haven for species seeking independence. The solar system became a school where other civilizations could learn how to defend themselves using simple but effective methods. Humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't advanced technology. It was remembering the basics that others had forgotten. "Sir," Rogers called out on the final day of the crisis, "the last Imperial ships have left our solar system. We're officially free." Thompson looked at the star map showing the changed galaxy. Where once there had been a single empire, now there were hundreds of independent worlds, each defending itself with the simple principles Earth had shared. "Send one final message to all worlds," Thompson ordered. "Tell them, Earth declares that the age of empires is over. The age of independence has begun. And if anyone tries to build another empire," he smiled, "well, we still have plenty of rocks to throw." Across the galaxy, civilizations celebrated their freedom. The mighty empire had been defeated not by superior technology, but by the simple principles it had forgotten. Earth had taught the galaxy an important lesson. True strength doesn't come from having the most advanced weapons, but from understanding the basic forces that make those weapons work. Sometimes, the best solutions are the simplest ones, and humanity would always be there to remind the galaxy of that fact.